Welcome to the Firewater Review, a weekly podcast dedicated to whiskey reviews. On this week's episode, we're going to be checking out Kentucky Owl Rye, batch number 1. I am Seth Brown. I'm joined by my co-host, Aaron Cave. We're back. How's it going, man?
You nailed it, man. I was so worried about that intro. You nailed it.
I was afraid we were going to have to put the training wheels back on the show. It's been, what did we say, about a month and a half?
A month and a half, yeah.
Yeah.
So glad to be back.
Yes, indeed. It's holidays. We're wedged in the middle of there, and just life. We had some technical issues that we had to work through, and here we are. We're finally back. I missed you, buddy.
Yeah, I missed you too. Oh, man, I tell you. We had a long conversation before we started recording, just catching up and life and shoo. But glad to be here.
Indeed.
Glad to be back.
And I'm looking forward to this one in a huge way. This was, like we were talking before the show, this was probably the last big purchase of bourbon that I've had recently. And I've been sitting on it for about, I don't know, probably a good month, I would say, at least anyway. And I just popped it open tonight.
Awesome. So, we've, like I said earlier when we were talking, let's start off the year with something great, So this is our first show for the beginning of the year. So
Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year. Sorry about that, everyone. But,
in February.
Here we are.
Yeah. So, Kentucky Owl. What do you know about it?
It's a bird in Kentucky, right?
Yes. As far as I know. I never saw one while I lived in Kentucky, to be honest.
Yeah, let's talk a little Kentucky Owl. So founded in 1879 by Charles Deadman. Charles Deadman pumped out a lot of great Kentucky Owl bourbon until 1916, where Prohibition forced him to close, like a lot of people. Mm-hmm. So all of his barrels were shipped off to a government-owned rickhouse where it magically caught on fire and all that lovely juice disappeared, and the Deadmans never got paid for it, unfortunately. So fast forward 98 years, 2014, Dixon Deadman, the great-great-grandson, has revived Kentucky Owl. So batch 1 came out, only 1,300 bottles. So super limited and only released in Kentucky. And fast forward now to 2000, I guess I would say 17, when batch 7 was out this past year. A little bit more than 13,000 bottles, but still very limited and allocated to Kentucky. But we're not talking about bourbon. We're talking about the rye.
Yes.
So the rye was released last year, 2017, and not only was it available in Kentucky, but 25 other markets, which is amazing.
Yes. And I was very happy to see Georgia on the list of that.
Yes. I mean, geez, Ohio was on the list. Can you believe that? I don't get anything.
The bourbon whiskey wasteland.
I know. Yeah. I got 2 bottles here in Ohio. I couldn't believe it.
Wow.
I thought I hit the lottery. But yeah, so Kentucky Owl Rye. So this is aged 11 years, comes in at 110 proof. So it is watered down a little bit, but it's still a great drinking proof. So actually, for me, I think it's the perfect drinking proof. That 110 is a sweet spot for me.
Yeah.
Not too hot, not too light. It's good. Where is that? So 110 proof?
Yeah, 110.6.
Yeah. So from what I know, it is bottled in Bardstown, and it says straight Kentucky rye on the label. So I imagine it's all distilled in Kentucky. Mm-hmm. So that throws out our buddies in MGP.
Yep.
So I would guess Heaven Hill, or maybe guess you could throw out Beam or someone like that, but I would guess Heaven Hill maybe, being that it's in Bardstown as well.
Yeah.
Well, I said 110 proof, but it's actually 110.6 proof. But from what I hear is it was 135-ish.
Oh, really?
Before they bottled it down. Yeah, it was pretty hot before they dropped the proof.
I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah. So this was the largest release from the Kentucky Owl brands. 7,500 bottles. So,
wow.
Yeah. So that's what I got.
Awesome. Yeah, I was so stoked to see them come out with a rye.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've never even had the bourbon. Have you had any of the bourbon?
I have. Yeah, I got batch 7 this year.
Oh, yeah?
And I could have sworn I sent you a sample.
You know what? Maybe you did.
You need to look at those samples.
I still haven't had it, though.
Yeah.
You did? Yes.
Okay.
You did send it. I just haven't opened it.
Yeah. So, yeah, I scored that this year. Actually, that was a great story because that was on our way. Me and my brother just happened to take a trip down to Willett on, I can't remember, whenever it was, must have been the fall. And I was texting with Jeremy Shell. I had 2 bottles I was going to ship to him. And I was like, hey, I'm on my way to Willett. I'm going to be driving through Louisville. How about I just meet you and I can just drop off the bottles? And he's like, hey, great idea. And he's like, I'm fine with that. He's like, maybe we'll just meet at Willett. I'm like, oh, great. So I don't know if it was the night before or the day before, he texted me. I was like, hey, you might want to change your plans just a little bit. Place by me is having a big sale, when open the doors and the masses file in, everything. Yep. Yeah. So he's like, you might want to get down here pretty early and get in line. And so me and my brother like, let's get up 4 a.m., drive down to Kentucky, met Jeremy. I think it was Liquor World, rolled in. I think he was 8th in line, so I think we were 9th and 10th, and nice. Rolled in and got a Kentucky out. So it was a good day.
It was a good day.
Yeah.
It was a very good day. Yeah, it's like I said, I've never had it. A friend of mine had batch 2, and I think he ended up selling it. Like, he just, for whatever reason, he didn't have that much interest in it and ended up selling it. It's like, that golly, that was one of the early ones.
Yeah.
But anyway.
Yeah, I think batch 7 that's the first one I've ever tried. It's always, it was always Kentucky release only, which now that Stoli owns them, I'm hoping they amp up production and can get the bourbon out to some more states in the coming years.
Yeah, I was kind of wondering if that had anything to do with the wider distribution of the rye, was that purchase. But I mean, this was probably in the works prior to that anyway. But
that's hard to figure out because it seemed like Stoli bought them, then all of a sudden the rye was coming out. So it seems like it had to been in the works before they were bought, but maybe they knew they were going to be bought. So I don't know. It's hard to say.
Cool. Anything else?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Let's get to drinking this stuff, man.
Let's do it.
I didn't open this for anything.
That's right. Let's get the rest off.
Let's do it. All right. When we return, we will share our notes. Welcome back, everybody. In the break, we took the training wheels off the show, and we're riding our bike again. And we were sipping on Kentucky Owl Rye, batch number 1. It is 110.6 proof. And just like we did in 2017, Aaron, I will let you go first, and I'll bring up the rear as usual.
All right. So, this nose is everything I love in a rye, man. It's fresh, it's crisp. Got a lot of like nice fresh orchard fruits there. Got some apple, some pear. Then you get just that traditional pine, a little bit of toffee, caramel. Get some dill hanging in there. A little bit of ginger, some nice nutmeg. A lot of red hots and cinnamon, oak. A little bit of tobacco on the end. The palate is, it's thick. It's viscous. It just coats the palate really well. A lot of vanilla, burnt sugars, a little bit of banana popping in there. Some cherries. Definitely get those crisp apples, some cinnamon, a little bit of clove, some nice anise flavors, oak and leather. Then on the finish, it's long. Nice and long finish. It's kind of hot. A little bit of cherry note in there, some pine, a little bit of nutmeg, some leather, and definitely get that nice cinnamon spice. So, man, I love this rye. Probably one of my top ryes for the year. Really enjoyed it. Gave it a 91.
Awesome. Yeah, I just saw the other day where there is a store relatively close to me and it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. So I'm hoping there's not a whole lot of people that drove out there to pick it up, but they still had 4 bottles on the shelf.
Oh, nice.
After popping this open tonight, like I might be driving over there to pick up a second one.
Yes.
All right. I was super excited about this one. And as I mentioned, I just opened mine tonight. So kind of interested in seeing if this changes at all over the next week or two. But it's just the nose on it is a fantastic rye nose. It's got a fair amount of oak to it and cinnamon, but it's fresh. I mean, it's super, super fresh. It's very floral. It was for me anyway. It really reminds me of just shoving my nose in a huge bouquet of flowers. It just, oh my gosh, it was so awesome. And then after letting it sit for just a little bit, coming back to it, I was getting a lot of vanilla and brown sugar on the nose. It just, it's so inviting. And, yeah, second bottle, I see that in my future. The palate, it's really full-bodied, very viscous, nice rye spice, got some cinnamon, a good bit of nutmeg and clove on the palate, just packed full of flavor, just cram-packed full of flavor. A great balance of oak, spice, just enough of, you mentioned the brown, the burnt sugars, just enough sweetness in there to keep the relatively higher proof rye in check. You nailed it on the finish. Super long. Really, it started off really oily for me. Has a nice little Kentucky hug in there. A good bit of oak on the finish. A lot more of that nutmeg, some clove, some leather, and on the very end, I was getting a little bit of citrus, and it kind of dried it out just a little bit there on the finish for me. And I gave this one a 94. Man, I loved this one a lot.
Man, cranked it up.
Yeah,
94. I
loved this one a lot.
It's not very often that you give a higher score than I do.
No, like I said, after I jotted my notes, I'm like, dang, I got to get back to that store or get to that store and hope that they still have one because, especially at retail, man. Retail is what, like 130?
Yeah, 130.
Yeah. Yeah. This, I loved it. It's a great rye. Fantastic rye.
Well, that gives us a 92.5. So
it's a very solid score.
That is a solid score. So if you see Kentucky Owl Rye out in the wild, pick it up. It's a good one.
Do it. Yeah.
Especially if you're a rye lover.
Yes. I might be.
Maybe just a little bit.
Yeah, just a little. Yeah, after I came back to it, there was a lot of vanilla and brown sugar there. It reminded me of some of the older Sazerac, the 18. Reminded me a lot of that. I forget what the year I had was of that, but it was just like a baking spice rack. It was so good. But the nose on this one reminded me a lot of that one, and I just loved it. I'm gonna have to pick up a second bottle because I'm afraid this first one ain't gonna hang around. Yeah, it ain't gonna hang around too long. Cool. Kentucky Owl, batch 1. Kentucky Owl Rye, batch 1. Got to clarify that now. They got 2 things.
I know.
2 offerings.
Gotta say the rye. Gotta say batch 1.
Yep.
This next year will be batch 2.
Yep. That's the way it works. Actually, it'd be this year.
Oh, yeah. Jeez.
We have really screwed ourselves up on what year it is and what month. What else was I going to say about this? They don't say anything about the mash bill anywhere, do they?
They don't, no. It is from an undisclosed distillery.
Yeah.
So
probably one of those things. If they disclose the mash bill, then you'll probably figure out where it's from.
Mm-hmm.
Would be my guess. All right. Anything else to add?
I don't think so. That's a great pour. It's phenomenal bourbon or rye, and I recommend getting it if you can find it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Where can the peeps find you, sir?
Well, you can always find me here on the Firewater Review when we are recording and putting out shows. So, and also write for the Bourbon Zeppelin, write for the Sons of Winston Churchill, and I am at Bourbon Cave on Instagram and Twitter.
Excellent. I am Seth P. Brown on Instagram, and I couldn't tell you the last time I was on Twitter, but it's Seth P. Brown there as well. You can find me on this show. You can find all of the ABV Network podcasts. You can find those at abvnetwork.com. You can find this show as well as all of those other shows in iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher. You can find this one on the YouTubes. It is audio only. Maybe someday we'll have video. Maybe. I need to write something for the Son of Winston Churchill. I have not in quite some time. But you can find them on Instagram, us on Instagram, at Son of Winston Churchill. And I think that wraps it up. This was Kentucky Owl Rye Batch 1, and we gave it, what was it, a 92.5?
Yes.
Excellent. Buy it. You'll love it. That's
well,
it.
I am glad to be back.
Yes. Amen, brother. Amen. And until next time, please drink responsibly and cheers.
Later.
The Firewater Review is part of the ABV Network. For more information or to become a sponsor, please visit abvnetwork.com. Thanks for listening, and cheers.